For 45 years, if you wanted a military-grade truck that announced your arrival before you even parked, you bought a Mercedes G-Wagen. And for 45 years, you accepted it drove like a farm tractor because looking cool was more important than driving well. This is the Land Rover Defender OCTA. It makes over 600 horsepower and has suspension technology that's banned in a lot of professional motorsports for being an unfair advantage. Land Rover says this truck is built to jump dunes in Baja, but looking at this specific build, I think they built this to kill the G-Wagen on the only terrain that matters to its buyers, the valet stand. The Mercedes G-Wagen went into production in 1979, and for context, that is the same year Sony introduced the Walkman. It was designed as a military vehicle, which might explain why it kind of drives like one. Then around 2010, it went from being a niche vehicle for safari guides to the official vehicle for people who wanted to let everyone know that they could afford an expensive truck. And you can trace this directly through cultural artifacts, because in the early 2000s, you could buy a used G500 for maybe 20 grand and everybody thought you were weird. By 2013, the Kardashians were buying them in bulk, and then it became the official vehicle of Calabasas. Then by 2023, every cast member of Real Housewives had one. The G-Wagen became a Birkin bag on wheels whose entire purpose was telegraphing that you spent a lot of money on an object. And look, that's fine. If you want to spend 200 grand on a status symbol, that's your business. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The G-Wagen still has a solid rear axle, and it still weighs 6,000 pounds. And it still gets 13 miles per gallon. So you're paying Maybach money for 1970s truck engineering wrapped in soft leather. And this brings us to the OCTA. And I think Land Rover had one objective when they engineered this vehicle, and that was to make the G-Wagen buyer question their entire decision. And this truck has the same street presence, the same visual impact, and it won't beat you up on the way to the country club. Subscribers get notified when new episodes drop on this channel. Non-subscribers hope the algorithm shows it to them eventually. If you want to control when you see our episodes on YouTube, well, that's what the subscribe button does. Let's discuss the chassis engineering here, because this is the fundamental difference between this OCTA and every other luxury off-roader. A solid axle, which the G-Wagen uses at the rear, is a single beam connecting the left and right wheels. The advantage is articulation. The penalty is what happens on the road. When the left wheel hits the bump, the impact travels through the axle all the way to the right wheel. In practice, what that means is those impacts get transmitted through the body directly into the cabin, directly to the passengers and even the driver. Now, this OCTA uses a very advanced suspension, and we've seen this technology before in McLarens, and it works exceptionally well in McLarens, but here, completely different application. This is a big luxury SUV with a 600 plus horsepower motor. But get this, it replaces mechanical anti-roll bars with hydraulic cross-linking. When the front left wheel compresses over a bump, hydraulic fluid is pushed to the rear right damper to counteract the motion. The system actively manages body movement in real time, so we got to check this out. This is one of the worst sections of road I know anywhere in the Toronto area, and normally I get tossed around when I'm behind the wheel of anything, and sure, there's a little bit of movement, but this suspension does an incredible job soaking up the bumps, maintaining body control impeccably. And for fun, we got to hit this section of road again, because the last time I was through here, I was getting bounced around and it was terrible. But this is just at a completely different level. This is wild. Here we go. Here's the bad bit. Wow. This is incredible. I have never driven an SUV that soaks up bumps as well as this thing. And this isn't theoretical. That road surface in other luxury SUVs would have me bouncing all around the cabin, while this Land Rover stays perfectly flat. Even your coffee doesn't spill, and I tried that this morning. This feels like a $150,000 luxury SUV, not a $150,000 military truck with leather seats. Steering is absurdly good for a big SUV like this, and from from the moment I got behind the wheel, I recognized that this Octa has a quicker steering rack than all other Defenders. Steering is just a little sharper, a little bit more crisp. The only thing I'd like here is a smaller diameter steering wheel, and I think that would suit the character of the Octa. The G-Wagen drives like you're making suggestions to the front wheels. This steers like a proper performance SUV. The like button tells YouTube to share this video with more people like you who are interested in vehicles like this. It takes 1 second, and if this episode gave you more information than a brochure or a press release, well, that's the entire ask. This is the first time I've driven a Defender with the BMW S68 Twin-Turbo 4.4-liter V8. Land Rover supercharged 5-liter V8 made a great mechanical whine, but you really had to rev it to get it to make power. This makes peak torque at 1800 RPM. It's almost diesel-like. The real numbers are 626 horsepower and 553 pounds of torque, but the real story is character. It's not a throwback to the 1990s. The character of this one is that modern, relentless shove. The downsides are that it really requires premium fuel and it generates a tremendous amount of heat, but these are the prices you pay for performance, my friends. And on snow with minimal traction, this is the perfect place to demonstrate how all-season tires are compromised. Watch what happens when I try to accelerate hard. Oh, it's just all traction control. Wow. Here's the physics lesson. Any tire, not just tires on this Octa, have a finite amount of grip that they can use to do 3 things: accelerate, brake, or turn. On dry pavement, each of these 275s have the contact patch the size of a hand, but on snow, well, that goes down to the size of a quarter. On this snow, I'm using 100% of available grip just to try to move forward. That leaves 0% for steering or braking. If I hit the brakes, I slide. If I turn the wheel, I plow. This Octa's 626 horsepower is completely irrelevant here. I could have 1,000 horsepower and it wouldn't matter. The limiting factor is that interface between the tire and the road surface. And this is why this street specification Octa is the fuse. The engine's capable, the diffs are capable, the suspension's capable, but that all-season tire choice, well, in these conditions, it just blows the fuse immediately. This specific tester has petrocopper paint and burnt sienna leather, and most interestingly, these 22-inch wheels with 22-inch all-season tires. The internet will tell everyone who'll listen that this is a ruined off-roader. They'll say it's a mall crawler, and technically they're right. But there is a counter-argument. If you ever plan to visit the Rubicon Trail, and let's be honest, you won't, this might be the most brilliant specification Land Rover has ever built. Let's talk about what this specific test vehicle costs, because it's interesting. The base 2025 and a half Defender Octa starts at $158,000 in the US. In Canada, after you add options and the federal luxury tax, you're looking at a price tag north of $200,000. For context, a Mercedes-AMG G63 starts around $180,000, so an Octa costs meaningfully less even with options. And given that this is a press unit was spec'd by Land Rover, this specification tells you everything about what Land Rover thinks their customers want. The matte protective film costs a few $1,000s that serves 2 purposes: protecting the paint and giving the vehicle a satin finish that screams, "I paid extra." But these 22-inch wheels, well, they're even more revealing. Land Rover offers these as an alternative to the standard 20-inch forged alloys. The 20s are clearly the better choice for off-roading, more sidewall, more cushion. The 22s are the better choice for looking expensive, and that's fine. Not every truck has to prove itself on the Rubicon Trail, and I think Land Rover knows that their customers will never engage Octa mode. So they offer this specification for those buyers who want street presence without pretending that they're going to Baja. Let's address the inevitable comparison. How does this interior stack up against the G-Wagen? Mercedes wins on mechanical precision, the door close sound, the metal switches. The Defender is rubber, aluminum, and exposed bolts, and it looks like it belongs in the Camel Trophy. But here's what the Defender does better: livability, and this front windscreen is huge. The seat has a tremendous amount of adjustment, so anybody can find a comfortable seating position, and then you can even fit a laptop in the door pocket. The rear seats fold flat, and these are practical considerations when you're actually using the Defender. Does it feel like $200,000? Well, that's subjective. Is it more usable than a G-Wagen? Well, absolutely. The Mercedes has better perceived build quality. This Defender has better real-world usability. And yes, this has those body and soul seats that vibrate with the music, and it should be a gimmick for about 1 second, but call me a child, I'm still enjoying it even after a week behind the wheel. But the shape of this seat, the bolstering, well, this is mandatory for a performance SUV that can corner this flat. So is the Octa better than a G-Wagen? Well, I think it depends on what you value. If you want an icon, a vehicle with 45 years of cultural cachet that makes people turn their heads, the G-Wagen still wins. It has presence that transcends engineering. But if you care about how the truck actually drives, well, the Octa is objectively superior. For starters, it just rides better. It steers better, it has more space, it costs less, and this suspension is so good that it changes the fundamental compromises you have with off-road vehicles. And here's my pragmatic advice. If you buy this Octa with these 22-inch wheels, well, you get a truck that does look stylish and rides beautifully on pavement. For 95% of buyers, the specification is perfect. But if you want to unlock all the magic, negotiate a second set of wheels at the dealer level. Get the 20-inch wheels with the all-terrain tires. Keep the 22s if you need to be stylish, but swap on the 20s because it's the only specification that makes sense if you want the full Octa experience. Just don't pretend you're going to Baja when you're actually going to Whole Foods. If you own one of these or a G-Wagen, let me know in the comments what I got wrong, what I got right, because owner intel is much more valuable than anything I can learn in a week-long press loan, and I always read those comments.